Hello, and welcome to Doom's Grooves. I am Admiral Oliver Franklin Doom. When I was growing up, music was a very important part of my life. The radio, records, any type of music. So much so that I was part of the music programs of middle school and high school. Today, it still remains that music is a very important part of my life, more so than television or movies. And Doom's Grooves focuses on stuff that I have in my personal collection that I absolutely enjoy and want to share with you. So sit back and enjoy Doom's Grooves. Today's artist, the Alan Parsons Project. Today's album, Tales of Mystery and Imagination, Edgar Allan Poe, with a release date of 1 May 1976. The Alan Parsons Project started as a collaboration between Eric Woolfson and Alan Parsons. Eric Woolfson was born in 1945 in Glasgow, Scotland. He was a songwriter, lyricist, vocalist, executive producer, pianist, and the co-creator of the Alan Parsons Project. Woolfson went to London in 1963 and found work as a session pianist. He then got work as a songwriter, being hired by Andrew Oldham, the Rolling Stones record producer at the time. Eric Woolfson went on to release a single called Santoke with the help of the people who would become the group 10cc. After a while, Woolfson decided that songwriting was not the way to make a living, so he decided to go into artist management. His move was instantly successful. His first two signings were Carl Douglas, famous for one of the largest selling records ever, Kung Fu Fighting, and engineer record producer by the name of Alan Parsons. Alan Parsons was born in 1948 in London, England. In October of 1967, at the age of 18, Parsons went to work as an assistant engineer at Abbey Road Studios. His first engineering credit came on the Beatles album, Abbey Road, and he worked on Let It Be. He also worked on Paul McCartney and Wings, Wildlife, and Red Rose Speedway. 5 albums by the Hollies, but his first Grammy Award nomination came from his work as the engineer of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Parsons considered himself more a recording director. This was shown in Al Stewart's Year of the Cat, where Parsons added a saxophone part, taking that song from what was supposed to be a folk ballad into a jazz-influenced ballad that put Stewart into the charts. Parsons declined the invitation from Pink Floyd to work on Wish You Were Here, and went on to form the Alan Parsons Project, which we are going to cover today. The album, Tales of Mystery and Imagination, Edgar Allan Poe, was the debut album of the Alan Parsons Project. It was based on the horror stories and poetry of American author Edgar Allan Poe. While Woolfson and Parsons wrote all of the material along the theme, the band itself was a bunch of studio musicians and guest artists who came along for the ride. The album itself was barely commercially successful, only accomplishing number 38 in the album charts. However, it has acquired quite the cult following over the years. It is one of the few albums that actually has 2 different versions. The original version, the 1976 vinyl, 8-track and cassette, did not have narration that was originally recorded to be put on that album by Orson Welles. That did not appear on the album until the 1987 remix, specifically in the tracks A Dream Within a Dream and Prelude to the Fall of the House of Usher. Both of these tracks on the CD contain that narration. The first track of this album is called A Dream Within a Dream. It's a sweeping instrumental, 4 minutes 14 seconds long. In the 1987 remix, it does include opening narration by Orson Welles. The end of the track goes into the bass line that would be the theme to track 2 of the album. The album's second track, released as the first single from the Alan Parsons Project, is called The Raven. The single was released in 1975 in November. It starts with a very simple bass line and then kicks into Alan Parsons himself singing through an EMI vocoder. Actor Leonard Whiting is the actual human voice that you hear in the tune. The song itself is 3 minutes and 43 seconds long. The B-side of the single release was The Fall of the House of Usher, Prelude. Track 3 of this album is called The Telltale Heart, a 4 minute 38 second single that tells the story of a man who has committed a crime and is haunted in his imagination by the heart of his victim coming back to life and pounding in his ears and his dreams and his mind and drives him nuts. This track is an upbeat rocker, and its lead singer in this case was Arthur Brown. Track 4 of the album tells the story of a man who gets even with his rival, and at one point in the song you hear both the main character and his rival talking to one another as the main rival is buried alive to die built into a wall. It's called The Cask of Amontillado. It is a slow tune sung by John Miles with additional vocals by Terry Sylvester. It is a very haunting tune and absolutely worth a listen. Track 5, the final track of the first side of the vinyl and the second single released by the Alan Parsons Project. It is called The System of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather. It tells the story of a man visiting an insane asylum and talking about the new method to help cure the insane when he finds out that the insane have taken over the asylum and the doctors are all locked away. It, like the Telltale Heart, is an upbeat rocker, one of only 2 on the entire album. The single was released in July of 1976 and was the Alan Parsons Project first charting single, having reached number 37 in the American Hot 100. The haunting refrain, "Just what you need to make you feel better, just what you need to make you feel," goes throughout the song. The first track on the second side of the vinyl, or track 6 on the CD version, is actually a 5-part instrumental called The Fall of the House of Usher. The first part, known as Prelude, lasts 7 minutes and 2 seconds. Arrival, part 2, is 2 minutes and 39 seconds. Intermezzo, 1 minute long. Part 4, Pavane, 4 minutes 36 seconds. And Fall of 51 seconds. This is a very sweeping instrumental and is always worth a listen. The final 4 minutes and 46 seconds of this album is a track called To One in Paradise, another one of the many slow songs on the album. The lead vocals were done by Terry Sylvester, with additional vocals by Eric Wolfson and Alan Parsons. It is based on the poem by Edgar Allan Poe of the same name that is only 26 lines long, 4 stanzas, and it speaks to the depression of someone who has lost a friend and a lover. The speaker talks about the love that he had for this woman and that he has no reason to continue. But in the last lines of the poem and the song, he realizes that in his dreams, he will always have her, and she will always come to him, no matter what. Why this album appears on my important list. When I first heard the single The Raven, I was absolutely entranced by the song. The vocals, even through the vocoder, were absolutely gripping. The story, now while I didn't know much of Edgar Allan Poe, I had heard of him, but I'd never read any of his stuff. The poem stuck with me through the song. So much so that during the Simpsons' first Halloween special, when Lisa was reading the poem, The Raven, and Bart, instead of saying nevermore like the raven does in the poem and in the song, he said, "Eat my shorts." I'm reminded of the song, and I always will be reminded of the song every time I see that. It would be several years till I actually owned the vinyl of this album. My first exposure to the entire album was on 8-track. My mother had purchased. We always had 8-tracks in the house because records were, well, kind of bad to have around, 2 little destructive boys. But the 8-track got me hooked, and when I could buy the album, I did. When I bought the CD, not realizing that there was a difference, but I loved the music on it. Even though there is a slight difference in the album version and the CD version of The Raven, and of course the added narration by Orson Welles, this album just stands out as one of those that is easy to listen to, sweeping instrumentals, absolutely beautifully well done music. And as I've said, the whole album is worth listening to, and I hope you will do that. I hope that you enjoyed this view of an album that is important to me. I also hope that you will take the time, if you haven't done so, to listen to it at least once, and let me know what you think in the comments. This has been Doom's Grooves with Admiral Oliver Franklin Doom. Thank you, and good night.